Welcome to episode 212 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my guest this week, I'm so thrilled as always to have him, Mr. Chuck Joyner. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm great, David. How are you?
Doing great. Glad you're here. We're going to have a lot of great things to talk about, and we wouldn't have a show without Mr. Jeff Gamet. He's back on the show. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing well, and I think it's great that Chuck is here too, because it's good to have someone of his caliber here.
This is true.
Chuck, no pressure.
No,
thank you. I think. I mean,
the quality of the show is all on your shoulders.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I'll do my best.
Yeah. So we got a good amount of things to talk about this week. I am going to do a demonstration and talk about the Plexicam. Got some units. We're going to be showing it on video here on YouTube, as well as we'll talk about it here on the show. So that'll be coming up later in the show today, as well as some good news stories. Security update with iOS, talking about that as well. But let's just dive right into the news for this week, as we always do. First story here was new App Store section reveals that 15 games are leaving the Apple Arcade soon. Apple Arcade is set to lose 15 games in the near future, according to a new section in the arcade area of the App Store titled Leaving Arcade Soon. And there's a whole list here of following games that are going to be leaving, a new section, and all that stuff. Apple's had the Apple Arcade for a number of years now. I believe this is the first time I recall them ever doing this. I don't know if any games stand out to you, Jeff. I don't see anything too overly exciting that I'm going to be unhappy that's missed. But what do you think?
Well, I think they have done this before, but this is the first time they've announced here's what's leaving.
Okay, so it just kind of quietly leaves the arcade.
Yeah. And the stuff that's leaving, I'm looking back at the list again, and I'm not seeing anything that has me stressed.
No.
The thing people need to remember is that Apple Arcade is a subscription. It's not a guarantee of permanent access to all the games. So going into it, assuming that you're going to see a rotation where new stuff comes in and some old stuff goes out, just set that as an expectation. The thing that I'm not sure if I have or if they've actually said anything about yet, I haven't seen, is what happens for people who are currently playing the games that are going to go away. Is there some way that they can keep like their high scores or their progress, or did they just lose that too?
I believe they were going to lose it, but I also saw that the games would be available for a short period of time before they'd stop working. So I don't know if they're going to if even having high scores is going to do anything if the game isn't available anymore. So,
well, a lot of these games are available, or either are or will be available outside of the Apple Arcade.
So they can buy it. So if they wanted to, as a separate app. So if you're really a hardcore of any of those games, there again, links in the show notes. Take a look at that. Chuck, I know you're not much of a gamer, but I found this to be interesting as far as Apple Arcade and what Apple's doing with this.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff sort of said what needs to be said. Just because you subscribe to this doesn't mean it's going to be there forever.
Right.
When I saw this, though, I confessed because you're right. I'm not a gamer at all. I wouldn't know any of these names coming or going at all. But I guess I was just a little bit surprised that and I'm assuming that they have worked out deals with the publishers of these games, so that the publishers are making money by having them in Apple Arcade. So it makes a certain amount of sense to keep things over, turning it over, and keep it fresh. So other than that, I think Jeff said it well, though. Just as long as you set your expectation, one of your favorites may disappear.
Right.
I can't really relate to the whole saving my levels or saving my high scores. That's just not the way I'm put together. But what it also means is that now you will have the opportunity, or you can be looking at this as having the opportunity to try out all these games. And then if and when one does leave, you can purchase it and continue to play it.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
good to see Bob Beach in the chat here. He's up at a real late night here watching the show here. And he is asking, why are they leaving? Not enough people playing them. I would go under that assumption because I don't think Apple, like a game like Oregon Trail, is not going to go anywhere anytime soon because it's very popular. So I would probably say that that's probably the case. They're just not very popular.
And I'm assuming that it's the game developers or game owners that have made this choice. And, there probably, I can't imagine there wouldn't be like keystone points in the contracts where the game owners have the opportunity to say, yes, let's continue, or no, let's don't. And I'm assuming Apple could probably do the same, but I'm betting that it's the developers who said, nah, we're out, because I'm assuming they are not making enough money on the games in the App Store to continue to support them there, and so they'll support them other places instead.
It would only make sense.
And we don't know. Yeah, we don't know what the agreement between Apple and the developers is as far as revenue splits for arcade subscriptions or how it works. So we are all speculating here, but I'm kind of like you, Jeff. I would think that both sides would have an out at some point, because Apple doesn't want games in there that, just to have them there to say, oh, we have, these extra 15 games that nobody really cares about. Or, on the other hand, maybe the publishers, maybe they're popular and the publishers are saying, hey, we think we can do better, not in Apple Arcade. So, it's speculation, but it would make sense that it could go both ways.
Sure.
Oh,
and
sure.
And it's also possible that these are all games where the developers came in with an agreement that it would be for a set amount of time. And then at the end of that time, they could decide if they were going to do another contract with Apple. And that they're coming up at the end of that. And everyone agreed that, no, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I guess whoever has those games is going to have to move on to others. There's plenty of others in that catalog. I could say that. So, next story here, Netflix. Netflix has been in the news quite a bit. They lost money and losing subscribers and all that fun stuff. But this article was interesting. Netflix's new ad-supported plan won't have the full catalog available. As I said, Netflix has been struggling as of late, losing over 200,000 subscribers earlier this year, and they lost more after this other report of their earnings. So I think the details really is in the fact is Netflix is going to have to get contracts with each of these movie studios to set that up for be able to stream with ads, because obviously they're going to make money on the ads. Well, they're going to also have to work that out with the movie studios and whoever else with the subscription. They did partner with Microsoft to launch this cheap subscription plan, so this is Microsoft is going to help them along and try to get this going. Chuck, what do you think? This is this I think this was inevitable with Netflix, honestly.
Yeah, you said the M word right there. That scares me.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I mean, this kind of makes sense. The next Netflix decides to try to tap revenue sources at all levels, and it expands. I mean, it potentially expands its market. And it's probably should be no surprise that maybe each tier is going to have, certain things. And I would guess that we're going to see things moving between tiers, like the things that are the hottest out there, the things that are just coming out of the theaters and going out to Netflix will be, unavailable for X number of weeks or months. And then they'll drop down to the next tier, or next year they'll drop down to the next tier. So this one, as much as some of the things that Netflix has been doing, this one didn't bother me a lot.
Yeah, no, it doesn't bother me. I will still probably pay for the HD, what the current plan I have now. I think the next thing that's going to end up probably happening is they're going to probably start charging for password sharing, because that does happen obviously quite a bit with families. But I think this was definitely something that doesn't bother me. What do you think, Jeff?
I think this was inevitable. As as streaming companies look to increase their subscriber base, you look for all the places that you can make your product more enticing. And there are two places really that these companies can make their products more enticing. First is with price, and second is with content. So they already have a lot of content, and now that means look at price. So you add in a ad-supported level. The other side of it, I despise paid subscriptions where you were fed ads.
Yeah, I agree.
And so from that perspective, I think this is horrible, and I don't think any company should do it. I understand from a business standpoint where they do, but I think this is just horrible. Either show me ads or make me pay money, but you don't do both.
Yeah, I think I can think of two services that I subscribe to: Paramount Plus, and I pay the no ads plan, and Hulu, and it seems that they've done a pretty good job in those particular services that I haven't seen much of any ads in the shows. But yeah, I agree with you. It's just something that I'm paying all this hard-earned money to not have to look at ads, and you're still giving it to me anyway.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I kind of think that you as the consumer have to look at it and say, I'm paying and they're making money off me both.
Right.
And so do I want to pay a little more and get the best experience possible, or am I comfortable having money made off of me? I mean, that's it. That's what it boils down to. I know what you're saying, Jeff, and I agree with it because I hate that idea too. But if they were to bump, I'll just go science fiction on you and say, if they were to bump the Netflix subscription up to $50, I'll be buying the lower tier and watching the ads.
Yeah.
So exactly. I would still have access, but it would save me some money. So I think it so much depends on what you can afford and maybe how you use Netflix. I mean, maybe maybe you're a casual user, sort of like some of us might still use broadcast TV almost as background noise.
Yep.
Well, then ads would be fine, wouldn't bother you a bit. So I
get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's let the buyer beware.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just to wrap up this conversation, Bob Beach in the YouTube chat here. By the way, YouTube chat. We're live at youtube.com/intouchwithios. He says Netflix with ads would drive me mad. Sooner pay for the non-ad subscription. I agree 100% with you, Bob.
I'm with Bob, and I can say at least with all the content that's available today, there's no content out there that's worth paying a subscription and being fed ads.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
if that was my only option, and it was a service that I had today and they were changing to that, I would not have that service anymore. And I would just miss out on that content.
Absolutely.
Or find another way to see it. Go over to a friend's house.
Exactly. Next story here, the Apple One bundle. We've talked about that many times on this show. I think it's well worth the value of what it provides, with the subscription starting at $14.95 with the individual all the way up to the Premier plan, which I have, and I think both of you as well. But today there was a story here. The subscription services can power Apple back to $3 trillion and beyond. This is according to Morgan Stanley. The Apple services business is the engine that will power the company back into a market value to more to $3 trillion. While the market still tends to value Apple as a hardware company, shifting to a lifetime value-based approach, which takes into account the recurring revenues from services, suggests long-term upside to over $200 a share. I'd take that, or more than $3 trillion in market value, according to what Morgan Stanley says. Hey, I think Apple's been smart with all services, and they keep getting into more services. Apple TV Plus, this and others. I think it's definitely the future for Apple going forward, and they're not just a hardware company; they're a services company as well. What do you think, Chuck?
Apple is very much a services company.
Yep.
And there you go. So if Apple can make a lot of money with this, then they will, and I think it's a safe bet they will.
Yep.
Well, and take a look. We're just talking about Netflix. Okay.
Right.
They kind of have one thing to peddle, and that is movies and documentaries, but video entertainment. Let's do it that way. With the one bundle, you have access to more storage for your iDevices and your Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. We'll see if I can get them all. You have the games we were talking about. You have Apple News, which may or may not be your thing, but it definitely is a quality product. What am I missing? I'm missing one. Am I not?
Fitness.
Fitness. You have access to fitness. Again, that might not be your thing, but I think it's interesting that I can discount one or even two of these services, and the value is still there for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that, and of course, it also helps lock the customer into the Apple ecosystem.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like it's a win for Apple, and it feels like it's a win for the consumer, assuming that they're happy being in the Apple ecosystem. And if not, then
And Chuck, you just hit the key to having a successful product right there.
Yep.
It has to be something that generates value for the company, but also for the consumer. And if you can do that, then there you go. And I think Apple is doing that.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're very successful with these subscriptions for sure. And they'll continue.
Agreed.
So a couple more stories here. This came up actually today as we record. T-Mobile and Apple are teaming up to make IT easier for small businesses. T-Mobile is teaming up with Apple to introduce a plan just for small businesses that tackles the IT pain points that they face keeping their business and employees connected. This is a Business Unlimited Ultimate Plus for iPhone is the first and only wireless plan that makes IT easy for small businesses, pairing Apple Business Essentials with Apple Care Plus for business essentials, along with a new iPhone 13 for new lines, 200 gigabytes of high-speed hotspot data per month, and more. Wow, that's some pretty good hotspot speed there. And I think this is a smart idea. Apple's committed to help small business thrive. They have the small business systems that they're already dabbling into, and T-Mobile just continues to grow their market. So, Chuck, what do you think?
I love this. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
It's kind of surprising at this point that IT seems to be getting more complex and more difficult for small businesses. As we all seem to think that things are getting easier. And I know several small businesses and some medium-sized and large businesses that struggle with IT. So anything that can come as sort of a package deal and with a lot of support and a lot of expertise, and of course the Apple hardware and software's ease of use, this is just a great win. And I love the fact that they're doing it with T-Mobile, not just Sprint, not just AT&T, but they're picking somebody else. So, another right. Apple partnership.
Absolutely. Jeff, what do you think?
Chuck, you said it. It seems surprising that IT is getting more complex. It's different complex. It is how I see it. There was a time when IT was the command line and dip switches, and now it's not that so much, but there's so many other moving pieces in the mix, and so much more that goes into security than we had before. It doesn't surprise me that this is a big problem for small and mid-sized, and even enterprise level businesses. And when I look at what Apple's doing, I'm thinking that this is so smart. Apple has failed at being a good business partner for businesses for decades, and they finally realized this is not something they're good at, even though they want to be in that space. And that's when they started doing partnerships, like working with IBM. And now you have the T-Mobile thing, and I believe there's some other companies along the way that they've partnered up with for different things. And this is great because now instead of continuing to fail to get into an area that they want to be or a market they want to be, they're partnering with the people that already know how to do it, and getting in through the back door that way.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is not something I would have expected of Apple, 20 years ago. But it's, in that sense, they're a much more savvy company now than they were. At least that's how it looks.
Yep, absolutely. Last story. I really always love these good stories that the Apple Watch was a success for health. This one was on the news this week. Apple Watch helped diagnose a deadly tumor, saved a Maine woman's life. A Maine woman is recovering from a life-saving surgery in Massachusetts General Hospital thanks to her Apple Watch. Truly saved her life. She swears it by now, and I think a lot of people do. I guess the same thing that what the Apple Watch always does. It shows you have AFib. You go to your doctor, and you get it checked out, and then sure enough, she had a tumor that if it hadn't been removed, she would not be here today. So, Apple Watch we can't stress it enough how valuable it is to have it as a health, not as something that's going to always suggest your health issues, but to help you along with it. And I think this is another awesome story when it comes to the Apple Watch. What do you think, Jeff?
I think this is fantastic. I'm so happy she is recovering and is apparently going to be just fine. When I see what's happening with Apple Watch in the news for the health and fitness space, I'm surprised that I don't see articles about how Samsung smartwatches save someone's life or a Fitbit saves someone's life. It's always the Apple Watch saves someone's life.
Absolutely. Chuck, your thoughts?
Just what Jeff said. Although that's an interesting point, Jeff. I really hadn't thought about that, but you don't hear those kind of stories.
I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't hear one about a Samsung smartwatch that they have similar sensors to Apple Watch.
Yeah. So it's either a PR move or whatever. I love the fact though that, and hey, if your Samsung watch saved your life, good for you, great. And good for Samsung. But at the end of the day, the message I love is that more and more people are understanding that they don't have to be medical grade devices to, improve your chances of recovering from a fall or having AFib or whatever. It's not, Apple's not in the business of trying to diagnose everything, but they're saying, hey, this might be something you want to go and check out. And, we all know people who have experienced that and had very positive outcomes, sometimes life-saving outcomes. Here's one more. So yeah, I think it's great. And I wish more people would recognize that aspect of the Apple Watch.
I agree. Definitely. All right. That's the news stories for this week. Let's move on to topics. iOS 15.6 finally was released. It was released yesterday as we record this. This is a must update, I must say. There's over 39 security fixes that are being listed as far as what security content, and we have links in the show notes, so I'm not going to go through every single thing that this is happening. I think one of them that kind of stood out was the stuff with with iCloud security, being accessed iCloud, and a lot of other stuff, iCloud Photo Library, where they could get sensitive information, that kind of stuff. But I can't say it. I can't stress it enough. I'm sure you guys would say the same. This is something to go out and update it today. I mean, it's something that you really need to do. Presumably, this is going to be the last update for iOS 15 before iOS 16 comes out, barring any other security issues that come about. But I think this is something we definitely need to go out and update.
Yep. We might see another security update. It just depends on what crazy stuff gets discovered. But regardless, go install these updates, important security updates, do it.
Yes, definitely do it. Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, well, I'll throw in with that too. The only thing, and I admit, when I saw this come out yesterday, it's like, okay, start my clock, because I want to wait 24 hours and see if there's any kind of widespread issues. Just because, especially for the phone and the Mac, the iPad and the watch a little bit less, but I don't want anything bricked. I don't want any challenges. And we've seen that in the past. And unfortunately, all you have to do is have that happen once. And you feel like, I'm going to be just a little cautious. So I've been at risk all this time in theory for these 39 security vulnerabilities. So I'm not sure that 24 hours is going to make that big a deal or big a difference. So, but now we're pretty much at and over my 24 hours. So I will be installing things later tonight.
Good.
Chuck, I typically, as soon as the updates drop, start my process of installing. And I actually have an order that I do my devices in, because my plan is I will never have two devices out of commission for updates at the same time. So I start with the iPad Pro. When that works out okay, then I move on to the iPhone. And when that works out okay, then I'll start the Apple Watch update. And after that finishes, then it's off to HomePods, and then Apple TV. And then finally, my Mac gets it.
Interesting strategy.
I did go do the Mac. I did do my Mac yesterday, and I got a little scared because how sometimes it just sits in the progress bar is just going super slow and doesn't have the time yet as far as telling you how much time is left to update it. It's like, oh no, what did I do? So finally, it rebooted about twice, and then finally it kicked in and it did its thing.
Well, so. I have a keyboard that has backlighting, physically connected, and an iPad physically connected. And so I knew, even though everything appeared to be, my cat has decided to hop up on the desk and she's trying to bite the camera and the microphone. She's my sweet office assistant. Anyhow, yes. I knew that even though it appeared on screen that everything is locked up, it wasn't, because I kept watching the lights go out on the keyboard, and then the lights would come back on, and then the iPad would wake up. And then later on, everything would go back out and come back up. So it was creepy to watch, but at least I knew that it hadn't frozen.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point now where I want to do it right before I go to bed. I want to start it and then go to sleep.
So you don't have to watch.
So I don't have to watch because if it's going to freeze, it'll still be frozen in the morning. But I won't have to endure that stress that David was talking about, so.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, at this point, go ahead, update it. I don't think there's going to be any logical reason not to update. Don't go through that update. So, couple other updates that happened. Watch OS 8.7 had some bug fixes and performance improvements. I really haven't noticed much on the Apple Watch, but go ahead, same thing. It's going to have some bug updates. Go ahead and do that. 8.7 is the latest version for Apple Watch, and iPad OS as well. The one thing on iPad OS that stood out is it's going to fix an issue for those of you who have the iPad Mini 6th gen. That the battery charging was a problem. So make sure you do your iPads as well. One thing I'll note for the Apple Watch, we presumably are going to think that this is going to be the last update for the Series 3 watch. I would anticipate. It did some bug fixes, but I just can't imagine. Of course, anybody who has a Series 3 ends up having to erase the watch and reinstalling again because there's never enough space on that watch because it was so small. So Apple needs to retire that watch. I don't know why they still sell it, honestly.
I agree.
So
price,
yeah, it's because it's $199. So just be aware of that. One other thing I did, I also noticed. The HomePod also was updated. Jeff, I'm sure you'll be going through all this trying to figure out if it actually fixed anything. It's always a problem.
So far, nothing appears fixed.
Yeah, same stuff you're dealing with.
At least I can talk to it in other languages.
Yeah,
now.
you could talk Mandarin, Chinese, and Cantonese if you so choose, or Japanese for that matter. So so at least that works, huh? So they got that, and then let's and then we can mention iOS 16 Developer beta 3 is continues. That there hasn't been really any updates, and public beta 1 has come out as well. We've talked a lot about what iOS 16 is going to have. We'll go ahead and we'll kind of skip any other things to talk about, since you can go back and listen to hear what other things are going on. But as things become noted, we'll definitely say something. So next topic, I wanted to talk a little about Apple TV. What kind of inspired me to talk about this is the fact that I did buy a Apple TV 4K during Prime Day, which is a 2021 version of it. And I now have 4 Apple TVs in my house. So one of them being the HD, the other 3 being the 4K. Boy, I went through the setup process. It was pretty phenomenal, and very automated. They really have done a great job, because I hadn't gone through and done a reset of an Apple TV in quite a while. But the nice thing about it is, as soon as you sign into your Apple ID, it's going to say, hey, do you want to sync all your devices with all the same apps on all your other Apple TVs on your network? So I went ahead and did that, and sure enough, all the apps I had previously on other Apple TVs, it just synced. So it just really makes it a great way of doing it. I also noticed there was definitely a performance improvement on the 2021 model, because I had the two 4K ones, I believe, were the 2017 or 2019. I have a link actually in the show notes here on identifying your Apple TV model. It was 2017 when the first gen came out. So this is the second gen 4K. So it does definitely seem that the processor makes a difference. It was a lot zippier. You definitely notice it. The one good thing about the new Apple TV is it has the new second gen remote, which is, I really like this remote a lot. So you have that. But yeah, I have a link here showing about all the Apple TV models, going all the way back to the first one that came out in 2007. Did you guys have that first generation Apple TV?
I did. Oh yeah,
I did too.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was a great, I love the fact that the enthusiasts could hack it, and you could do all kinds of other fun stuff with it. It was, for its time, it was very cool. And I looked through this list, and I'm a sick person. I owned every single one. So.
I bought the Apple TV HD when it came out.
Yeah,
and because it was timed upgrade from the third gen or second, whatever it was that I had. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that Apple TV. It's still the only one I have, and it's connected to my TV right now. And it just feels horrible to me that it is now going to be considered obsolete.
I was just going to talk about that. I do have a link here.
Did I jump ahead?
No. Go ahead. You can talk about it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, granted, I bought this thing in 2015, so it's. I mean, at this point, come on, it's what, 7 years old already, 8 years old, something like that. Simple math is hard in the evening, but at the same time, it still works just as good as the day I plugged it in, and the feeling that at some point, probably relatively soon, I'm going to need to replace it, because it just no longer supports whatever's happening with new software updates. Just kind of makes me sad, because it's such a great little box, and it just won't stop working.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, and I in fact, since I have Apple TVs to play with, I just wiped it. And doing a full fresh install on it, and it still seems pretty zippy for its age, and it's a perfectly fine device. It's not like the Series 3 or the third gen or the second gen, which are obsolete. This is it's now considered vintage. That's how Apple classifies it. So
yeah,
so it's definitely something you'll be able to continue to use for quite a while. I mean, even the second gen and the third gen, people are still using it. Just to AirPlay stuff and be able to share your screen, and even though you can't, the apps aren't going to get updated anymore. It doesn't have much.
It still works great for that.
I'm sure I have a second gen sitting in a second or third gen sitting in my closet or somewhere. it's always fun to pull it out and go, oh God, this thing's slow.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, it's a third gen that I had, and I never got rid of it. I just threw it in the box with my projector because, of course, who doesn't have a projector just sitting around? That's and it gets used for AirPlay, and the third gen still supports Apple TV app, so you can still watch all the TV shows and movies and stuff. So it's still a perfectly usable thing for when I need to pull it out and we're doing like a backyard movie night.
Absolutely.
I do wish Apple would do just a little better job, because I think you're right, Jeff. Honestly, I'm not sure what vintage they are, or excuse me, what year they are. But I've got a couple Apple TVs around, and some of the secondary and tertiary ones don't get used enough for me to really say, oh yeah, that feature is missing.
Yeah.
But it's tough when you have this little black box on top of your TV to tell which one it is. That's the first thing. But I wish they would do a little better job of explaining, what the newest versions do. Because I feel like when a new Apple TV comes out, at least for me, okay, what have you done? I mean, you've made it faster, and that's great. And 7 years, 7 years at this stage, 7 years is a long time in tech. Mm-hmm. And an Apple TV is not something you're going to go and get repaired. If it dies on you, you're going to go get a new one.
You just get a new one.
Yeah.
Right. So
the fact that it's been moved over to vintage, I think is good for Apple, because it means that, the expectations are lowered about having to support something that is that old and that slow.
But the thing is, it's not that slow.
It isn't.
Well, I'm playing Apple Arcade stuff on it all the time, and there's never a lag at all.
Well, see, there you go. So, that's great.
Yeah.
But I can't get too excited over this, now, because you haven't invested that much money in it. And if you've used it at all, you've gotten more than your money's worth.
I've got more than my money's worth out of it. And now, just to be clear, I'm not wailing and gnashing my teeth. I'm just lamenting the fact that here's this amazing product that I have, and it's now considered a vintage thing, and it still works so well.
It still works fine. Mm-hmm. They're going to continue to support it. 15.6 just dropped for tvOS as well. I was going to mention that as well. So,
and it supports tvOS. What's the next version? tvOS 16.
16 is the next version. Yeah, and it supports it.
And it supports that too. So
so it's going to be a while.
Yeah,
I think so.
What Apple needs to do before I update this Apple TV is release a new model that offers something more than I'm already getting.
There is a rumor that Apple is looking at potentially releasing a new model of the 4K. I'm going to assume it's a 4K. But that would be an 8K, but again, you go to look at other platforms like Roku, which is so inexpensive. You can buy a basic Roku for $30, and some of them are already HD, and even it's still even less than what an Apple TV is. So it's going to be interesting where they go with it. I still think it's a great device. I mean, I'm the crazy person that has the Google TV and the Roku and all the other devices to look at all the platforms to kind of see what they do. And I always go, of course, because I love Apple, but it also is that I think that the platform itself, the interface is so much better.
Well, David, I have Roku devices and I have a Fire TV.
Fire TV as well. I got that.
As well. And I don't think there's any question that the interface, I mean, that's what you're buying the Apple TV for, right, is the interface. I mean, because if you watch two channels, then it probably doesn't, or two online channels or whatever, probably doesn't make any difference what you buy.
Right.
Leave me alone.
Siri. My cat's in your office now?
Yeah, that's right.
No, that was an Amazon device talking to me.
Oh, because you said, "Hey, lady."
Yeah, probably so. But I think that's the thing that people get a little bit hung up on. They get hung up on the price, and they get hung up on, but the Roku will do just everything the Apple TV will. And we've done this before. I can take a Ferrari to the grocery store, or I can take my car to the grocery store, or I can, haul furniture with my Ferrari, or I can haul furniture with a dump truck. It's the right thing for the right job. And depending on what experience you want and how much you use it. So Roku's a fine product, and Amazon Fire TV is not necessarily bad, but there are challenges with the interface that the Apple TV doesn't suffer from.
I agree. And there are two places where the Apple TV gives me more than I could get with a Roku or a Fire Stick. And the first one is if I actually do want to be an Apple Arcade user, now my Apple TV is a gaming console. And the second thing, which is probably more important for a wider range of people, it's a HomeKit bridge.
That's true.
And even though I have HomePods, the Apple TV is the reliable, solid, always primary HomeKit bridge.
Absolutely. So check it out. I got links in the show notes here. There's an Apple TV user guide, the actual support for Apple TV. You can also the other one here that identifies every model of Apple TV that's ever been released since 2007. So check that out. But I thought that'd be a good way to talk about devices here. And Apple TVs, I think, is still going to be a viable product. To see where it goes. Next topic here, I wanted to have a brief discussion here about the fact of the Apple Watch. We talked about the Apple Watch here a little bit ago here. Should you buy a cellular Apple Watch? Is the service worth the cost? Now, I have a link here in the show notes from 9to5Mac that talks about this very thing. Is it worth having a cellular plan on your watch? Do you want to have your standalone device with you? I think most people are buying the GPS version these days. I probably shouldn't admit it, but I did. This Apple Watch is this GPS and cellular version because I didn't want to wait. So I spent a little extra money for it. But I've never activated the cellular version because I just don't find it to be any value. It's an extra $10 or $15 a month, depending on your carrier. And is it really worth having an Apple Watch that you can talk on when you're, all of us, and I would say most of us carry our iPhones with us all the time. So what do you guys think? I don't think it's worth it.
I think it's totally dependent on your use case.
Right.
I think cellular on Apple Watch, for me, is not worth it. But, you could say the same thing about iPad. Should you buy a cellular iPad? And it depends on how you're going to use it. If I wanted to go out running every morning and not have to carry my iPhone with me, then a cellular Apple Watch would make sense. But that's not how I use my Apple Watch. My phone goes with me.
Yeah, me too.
So I saw this article before you posted it in here, and honestly, it got me to thinking a little bit. That I've always resented the fact that the carriers want, another 10 or $15 a month, to give me this service. But with the way the Apple Watch is developing as a health device and a safety device and a security device, I'm starting to rethink this a little bit from the standpoint of, okay, if I can, it's going to cost me about, I think, $50 more. I think that's the price differential for the cellular radio. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And then I'm going to pay that, 120 to, whatever the number is, if it's $15 a month a year. That's not necessarily a bad little insurance policy that no matter what happens to my phone, whether I have it with me, whether I end up in a situation where I don't have it, that I would have access to calling for help or having my Apple Watch call for help. And so all of a sudden it's like, I admit I don't know what I'll do because up to this point I have not had a cellular watch, but when the time comes for the next one, I may rethink it and take a good hard look at it and do a little more research into what it will actually cost, how much more it will cost me a year. And I'm trying to look at it that way on a yearly basis because that's the way that I would measure it. Because it's $10 or $15 a month. That sounds like a lot of money. But when you do the math on it for the peace of mind and the security and all those benefits, it may not be all that bad.
It may not be bad at all.
I think that's a valid argument. And as you were laying that out, I was thinking, okay, so where are the places where I would want the safety features of an Apple Watch to be helpful to me when I don't have my iPhone handy, like fall detection. And I'm pretty sure in my case, the only places that I am where my iPhone wouldn't be in my pocket or my hand, it's going to be places like my home, where the watch has Wi-Fi access already. Now, if I was more often in places where my iPhone was consistently not handy, mm-hmm. and it wasn't places where my Apple Watch knew the Wi-Fi network, then cellular suddenly starts making a lot more sense.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, Jeff, but there, I'm thinking about places you might want to go that you don't want to take your phone for whatever reason, mm-hmm. like to the beach. Okay. I'm going for a day on the beach, which I don't go to a day on the beach. But the point is that, I might not want to take my phone with me, but I'm still available and my Apple Watch is still protecting me.
Interesting.
You talked about being out for a run. Well, if I confess I'm struggling with good examples of where I might not want to take my phone and not have access to Wi-Fi, but there are some out there, and so factor all those things in, folks, if you're going to make a decision. But just think outside the box a little bit, because I can envision places that. Well, if I go on the golf course, I always have my phone with me. Mm-hmm. If I had my watch and it was cellular, I might not bother to keep it in my pocket.
Yeah, that's true.
So pick your sport. Anything that is out there, and that your phone presents. It's a disadvantage to carry your phone. Mm-hmm. It might be a place you want to consider. And I'm like you, I'm not arguing it either. It's just
absolutely.
I'm reevaluating.
Those are excellent things to think about when
definitely.
You're deciding whether or not you want a cellular Apple Watch.
Yeah. I'm reevaluating my position.
That's good. And I also want to note somebody in our YouTube chat here, Pat, has joined us late, and she's really enjoying the show. I appreciate that. And
hi, Pat.
Hello, Pat.
Hello, Pat, and you're very new to the Apple ecosystem. Well, welcome, because you are in a great place. Asks that if you hike or exercise, does a cellular watch help when you go without your iPhone? Well, yeah, it could. If you aren't going to keep your phone with you, that's definitely going to be a security point of your running or if you're hiking, and that watch is going to work as a phone. And many times does it come in handy in that case. So that there's a good case point with the Apple Watch with cellular that I think it would be well worth it.
I do a lot of hiking. Well, I live in Colorado, so I better be doing a lot of hiking. And I always take my Apple Watch and my phone with me when I go on hikes. My phone's there because it's also my camera. But the other thing is the Apple Watch. I'm using it to track my hike. And if I don't start that hike with a full battery, then there's a likelihood that my Apple Watch is going to start giving me alerts by the end of the hike that the battery's low. So keep that in mind. You're like, how long are the hikes that you plan to go on? Are you going to be hiking in areas where cellular coverage is spotty? Because if coverage is spotty, then you get a faster drain because the cellular antennas are drawing more power, trying to find a signal. And to be clear, I'm not trying to dissuade you from saying, oh, a cellular Apple Watch is the right thing for when I go on hikes.
Yeah.
It's just good to have as much information as possible so that when you go in and make that purchase, you feel like you've researched it as much as you need to.
Absolutely.
David, do you mind if I make up one more scenario?
No, not at all. Go ahead.
Because I'm sitting here trying to think of different use cases for the watch where the phone might not be appropriate. And, if you were going into a potentially I hesitate to say hazardous situation, but maybe a situation where you're not completely comfortable. You could easily place a call on the watch to someone you know and trust and say, hey, just listen in for a little while, make sure I'm okay. Because you're going to have a much harder time, where's my phone? Carrying this around, am I okay? Am I okay? But, if it's on your wrist, that would
definitely be more discreet.
Yeah, much more discreet. And, I don't think this is sexist. I hope not. But, especially for women, we seem to be so focused right now on the AirTags and tracking.
Yep.
Might be a situation where you want to be tracked, where you want somebody to know what you're going into and who you're going into it with, and can maybe call for help if things go sideways. So just, again, you got to make up all the scenarios that might affect you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this actually turned out to be a very lively topic. Great, glad I brought it up, and I think definitely something to think about. One last thing I'll note is the fact that if you don't have cellular and you have your Apple Watch, and if your phone is in another room and you want to be able to answer your phone, that works great. But if you don't keep your phone with you and you're in a different location, then then you're not going to be it's not going to be of any benefit to you. But I think all three of us always have our iPhones with us, so it's just in most cases, if not all. So, but really great topic. I'm glad you got some great information. You want to add one more thing? Are we good?
Who, me?
All right.
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
Great.
I'm good.
All right. Next topic. I wanted to talk a little bit about this product that I had Dan on our show previous, and Chuck, you have as well, about a product called Plexicam. Plexicam is a device that will hold a webcam or even an iPhone as a camera, and it does give you the option to hook it right on your display, your monitor, or it also gives you the option to be able to hook it on your laptop when you travel. I've got two different models that I'm going to be showing on camera, but also describing it as well here. And this first one here, this is the Plexicam Mini. It's a Road Warrior. And basically what this has, I have the camera on here doesn't come with it. This is a Logitech 925E camera, which is a really nice webcam. But you see that the bracket mounts the camera very nicely on this bottom bracket. And then above here, this Road Warrior kit comes with this little light. So you can have this as a nice setup. And it's very easy to travel with it. This all comes disassembled, so you can put it back together. And the bracket just mounts at the top here for the light, and then the bottom bracket will mount here on the bottom for the camera. You can do it with a webcam as well as a iPhone with a phone holder. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm twisting it to the side here just to kind of give you a little bit the display of the way this is designed, and it's really nice because it's hooked in such a way with the webcam that's mounted to this one that allows you to be able to really get a good secure connection. And this actually probably would work on your screen too, because it is really hooked well. I had the first generation of the Plexicam, and I noticed as I put this one together, and if you guys can see this is the bracket. And when you would put these brackets inside the holder, it did have a little bit of give to it. But right here, they added this as a new enhancement. If you see this here, this is a little piece of plastic here that actually does a much better job of gripping the shelf that actually this mounts to. Because I know, Jeff, you've had it a few times where it's fallen on you.
Yes.
They haven't even noticed this, but I really wanted to point this out because I had noticed it. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. I'm going to use this one now. The bracket that I'm using right now, I'm using it with an iPhone. That's the first generation of the models. So they now have added this, which is great. So, but the nice thing about this is they kind of call this a teleprompter. It allows you to be able to have this in the middle of your screen and be able to have your eye contact. You're looking straight at the camera. If you're watching live on the video or this video that we're showing here, I've got this in front of me, but I'm looking straight at the camera right now because it's at my eye level. And we know that when we have webcams at the very top of a monitor, or if you're using the webcam on your laptop, sometimes you're looking up, you're looking down, and this really forces you to look straight ahead. And gives that professional view when it comes to that. So, but this is a Road Warrior, but this is the Mini. It's called the Plexicam Mini, and pricing. We'll have links in the show notes to the pricing. It's around this one is around $80, which actually, really, if you think about it, isn't too terribly expensive. But the nice thing is it's a clear plexiglass, and you can see right through it, so it's really not a bad thing. There's another model that I've got here today I was going to show as well. This is the Plexicam Pro Plus. Now, this one has is a little longer in length, so you can have it if you need to have the camera move down a little further down on it. It also has a camera mount. This light here that I have is the Lume Cube. This is actually the older model. They have a new model now, the series a second generation model of this. But again, this just kind of shows you what it can do as far as how you can mount another light to this, because this one does not come with a light kit unless you buy it as an extra accessory. Down here is a bracket that holds the iPhone, and that's how you're watching me right now. I have a very similar bracket to this one that holds your iPhone as a camera. I'm telling you, I love having the iPhone as a webcam. I guess I'm spoiled. I have an extra iPhone that I can use because it is kind of difficult. Here's my iPhone here. You put this in, and then you don't have access to your iPhone when you're doing a conference. So sometimes you need to look at something, and and you might get interrupted. You got to make sure you put it on airplane mode or keep it in focus mode. But again, as you see, it's designed the same way, and the same thing I mentioned before. There's the bracket there, and there's the little thing there, which is great. These new brackets are really nice. That keeps it in place. So
I wonder if that's something that we can get as an upgrade for our first gens.
Yeah, I know Plexicam does allow you to buy the extra parts, and that's a good segue for that, because if you want to get the one with the extender, I'm juggling my hands here. This is the extra bracket that came with my original. Then this actually goes in tandem with the other bracket here. I don't want to be dropping stuff here while I'm doing this, and this will extend it even further length if you require that have the much more distance. So it kind of daisy chains, I guess you could say, in a way. So it goes all the way down to the bottom of your monitor if you happen to have a larger monitor and need to do that. So, but as far as getting the brackets go, they're awesome as far as being able to buy any extra accessories. You can reach out to them. Their customer service is amazing. I mean, anytime I've reached out to them, they've been always great to get help with any of their products. And I think it's something that's great. I'd love to hear. I'll start with Chuck here. How have you been liking it? Because I believe you have a DSLR or not DSLR, but you have an SLR that's a camera that you're using for your Plexicam, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm using now. I've got a Lumix DSLR mounted on this, and frankly, it stays. This is my recording machine, my live recording machine. So it pretty much stays in place the whole time. And David, you're right. It looks so unprofessional. I mean, and especially after lockdown, people looking up, people looking down. It's like, for heaven's sake, if nothing else, folks, just get your camera leveled on a bunch of books or something. But the Plexicam makes it so nice to do. Behind me is the office machine that's where I do the office stuff, and I have a Plexicam back there with just a regular webcam. But same idea, and believe me, I've tried everything. I've had tripods in front of the screen. I've had tripods off to the side of the screen with an arm across.
Oh, and you and I have done this all the time.
Yeah, it always blocks your view. And with the Plexicam, the only thing that is blocking my view is the camera itself. The extender that Dave's talking about, I have that on here. But there's everything else on my screen is completely visible. And I've gotten rid of all those other solutions because this does everything I wanted to do. And also, as Dave was alluding to, if I wanted to drop this down a little bit, just to change the angle, it's not hard. I just reach over and slide it down.
Slides up. So I'm doing this on camera now. It slides up or slides down.
Yeah. So you can,
and it's any modification you want. If you don't use the light, like you and I, we all use our external lights, so I wouldn't need this. I just put this on so everybody could see it, because not everybody's like us having all these professional lights here. Not really professional, but good lights. That sometimes you just want to have a bracket that holds a light, and this comes completely off, and that's how I've been using it for quite a while. I don't have a light bracket on my other one that I'm using now. So, but you're right. Yeah, it's fully adjustable, and it'll move all the way up to the top if you don't have this other bracket on, and if you want, and the position it any way you'd like, just slide it up and down.
Yeah.
And I agree with you.
But the other great thing I think is the fact that it hooks over your monitor or your laptop. So
There's the
easy on, easy off. And if you, and if you, like I have mine, I know exactly where I have it set. So I cheat a little bit, because if I do need to take it off or want to take it off, I just have a little bit of duct tape up on the back of the Mac, which is where the edge of the Plexicam goes. So all I do is just line it right up, drop it back in, and it's in exactly the same place. So that's another function. You're not attaching anything like some of the webcams you have to, or even if you don't have to attach them, you're playing with the angle, trying to get it right. This is first time, every time, exactly the way I want it.
Absolutely. Jeff, you've got one too, and how's it been for you?
It's been great. And one thing we really haven't talked about, you touched on it very briefly. You can see through it.
Yes, that's
and that's actually something people really need to know about. It is so clear.
So you see my face. I'm showing on camera here.
Yeah. So I moderate webinars for a bunch of companies. One of the things that I do. So I have to have a script for the event. And I can have the script where it's sitting with the Plexicam covering part of it up, and it doesn't matter because none of the text is distorted. And like right now, the way my screen is set up, Chuck is completely behind the bottom of the Plexicam arm, and except for the fact that I can like physically see the edges of the Plexicam arm. If I couldn't see those, I wouldn't know that the Plexicam was sitting directly in front of Chuck. I did have a minor problem earlier where when my office manager decided she was going to get rambunctious and try and bite the camera and the microphone, she moved my camera, so it's actually a little bit lower than it was when we started the show.
Yeah,
and but moving it back up in place is there we go, and now it's basically straight, and we're good.
Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to Plexicam and ask them about this with the new plastic little tabs they have in the slider here. If you can get this as an after
that would be great
purchase.
because like you mentioned, I've had a couple instances where my the arm with the camera has just slid off the bottom, and before people freak out and think, oh well, clearly it's a crap product, but because I'm actually picking up the whole arm or Plexicam mount and moving it off to the side and back in front of myself
like this
several times a day, because I'll be on a Zoom call or some other web call, and then I'm done. So I just move the camera out of the way, and so it's back and forth all day long. Yeah, I mean, honestly, with as much as I move this around, it's amazing that it doesn't fall apart. But it's built well enough that that's just not a problem.
Yep. And you have a webcam, or what kind of camera do you have?
I'm using a Logitech C920 webcam with mine.
Okay. Yeah, it's perfectly good phone. Perfectly good webcam. So
I expect that will change when we get the new updates for iOS and macOS this fall. I do have the camera mount for this one as well, so I'll probably switch over to using an iPhone at that point.
Yeah, well, I think you should. And a good segue on the iPhone. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I have talked about it before. Reincubate is the company. They make amazing software called Camo Studio. Yes, it's going to have that service is going to be that way of being able to use your iPhone as a camera is going to be built into Mac OS Ventura very shortly. So, but I think Camo Studio still's got some great things because it's got lower thirds and all kinds of other stuff the software provides. So, but I'll put a link in the show notes on that as well. check it out, plexicam.com. It's again, all the links to everything we talked about here is in the show notes, and well worth it. Well worth the investment. I definitely think so. All right. Before we wrap things up, I have 3 apps I wanted to talk about briefly that I have found I thought were very something that you really would like to have. First one is if you do travel, I don't know, people are starting to traveling again. It's a app called Flighty, Flighty. It's a flights tracker app, and it does have some pretty amazing ways of being able to quickly track where flights are, and gives all kinds of great information as far as where that flight is. It does have a free version, and it does have what the free version is going to include is no ads, live data. It does do iCloud sync. It does have unlimited flights, but the pro version is going to give more push alerts and all kinds of other stuff. And it is not cheap when it comes to the pro version. If you're a heavy duty traveler, it has in-app purchases. You can get a month-to-month plan at $5.99 a month. They have an annual at $49.99, and they have flexible plans there as well. You could do lifetime if you really wanted to. The pro lifetime is expensive, $449. So, but I know that data costs a lot of money, and I can understand the app developer wants to recoup all that cost. So, but the free version, unless you need a lot of that extra stuff, it's pretty awesome what they're offering for free on this app. So anybody travels with that, check that out. I think that's a great app.
Cool.
Any of you guys, have you seen that one before?
No.
This one was new to me, and it looks cool. I like that there is a companion Mac app.
There's a Mac app as well. Yes, there is. Mm-hmm. Yep. So you can go use your Mac as well. Then the second app I found this week is called Rev Call Recorder, REV Call Recorder. And what this does is it actually records phone conversations on your iPhone. So you launch the app, and what it does is it allows you to be able to make a phone call, and it goes within the app, and it does record the phone call, and you are able to have that recording. Of course, anytime I talk about something that records a phone call, you want to make sure that you're disclosing to the other party that you are recording this phone conversation. I believe it does say something when the recording starts, but you definitely want to make sure that you're doing that, especially in states that really mandate that you do that. But this comes in handy if you're having a phone conversation of something that you needed to record. All you do is launch the app and joins it. There's other methods of being able to record as well, as you can actually, there's a phone number that you can call that can join the call, like creating a three-way conversation, and it'll start recording and puts it into the app as well. The cool thing about it is free. So it's free and clear as far as you want to record the call. You can download it as MP3 and do that. Where they're making their money is the transcription. If you want to have a transcription of the call, yeah, it does cost, I think, something like $1.50 or so. I'm not sure the exact costs off the top of my head, but that's where they're making their money. And you can buy credits in the in-app purchases starting from $1.99 to 10 credits for $16.99. I believe it's like $1.50. I don't know if it's a minute or what it is, but that's where they're making their money. But sometimes you need to be able to record conversations and just be legal with it. Don't just record and make sure that everybody knows. I'm pretty sure that the app does announce that it's recording once you start it. So, but I haven't had a lot of time to play with it, but that's definitely a cool app to look at as well. And then the last app I had that I wanted to mention real quick here is an app called Catalist. That's Catalist. What this app does is it does allow you to spend more time doing what you love. You want to be able to capture words of mouth recommendations from friends, finding new things, and it includes things like whatever books you've read, whatever shows you've watched, top 10 podcasts, anything that you recommend. It does have a community that goes behind it. So it's movies, TV shows, books, podcasts, and more. And you can add it, creates lists that you save everything that you want to do. Inspires others to take a look at us, maybe a particular book, a particular podcast, TV shows. I thought it was a pretty cool little app, and it is free. and it does. It's absolutely free. There's no charge at all for it, and it does give you opportunities to be able to kind of, maybe it's kind of a social media thing, that allows you to do that. So I thought this was a pretty cool app too.
Cool.
Yeah. So
I need to keep track of that stuff. That's I'll have to check this out.
So I'm gonna check it out some more now. Yeah, check that one out. So three great app.
I've been on the hunt for a good app for keeping track of TV shows and movies, and and there's a lot of great stuff out there, but so much of it feels like it just gets too complicated in just trying to keep track of everything.
Yep. And
just looking at the interface on this one, it's looking to me like this one probably is better for the way I want to keep track of stuff.
Yeah, like the app Just Watch is one that comes to mind for me for TV shows and
which is also a good app.
Yeah, very good. So,
yeah, TV time is good for TV.
TV time.
This goes. I'm just looking at the graphic here. Must watch documentaries. I mean, that's a great category right there that I haven't seen anybody else track for you. So,
yep, definitely. All right, we had a fun-packed show this week. Let's go ahead and wrap things up for this week. Please send your comments and questions and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios. Support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We really appreciate it. You also can become a Patreon of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We'd really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you're notified when we are live streaming, which is usually on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios, and where you can watch and listen to past episodes as well as this live stream that we did today. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the articles and topics that we talk about are flipped into that magazine. The link is in the show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts, Apple Podcasts, and many others. But better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65. Chuck Joyner, so glad you were back on the show. We always love having you. Where can people find you?
MacVoices.com is the best place. That's where everything that Mac Voices does is linked to. We do Mac Voices live Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific with Jeff and David and some other of our friends. We'd love to have you join us. That's at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. And on the socials, pretty much most of the socials, you can find me as at Chuck Joyner or at Mac Voices. Thanks for having me, David. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, thank you. And Jeff Gamet, it's always a pleasure to have you being on the show. You're such a great contributor. We really appreciate it. Where can people find you?
Thanks as always for having me on. It's genuinely loads of fun every single week. Okay, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, jgamet on both of those. jgamet on YouTube for my occasional videos. And Tuesdays with Chuck and Dave on Mac Voices Live here with Dave, and Chuck for In Touch with iOS. The Big Show on Thursdays, the Mac Show on Fridays, and then also on the Context Machine with Brian Chaffin. Do we have a second where I can do a shout out for WordCamp US? Okay, absolutely. If you're going to WordCamp US and you didn't get a ticket like most of us, send me a direct message on Twitter, and I'll add you to the Slack for those of us that will be there but don't have passes to the event. We've put together what we're calling the Taco Track, which is a whole thing for all of us that are going to WordCamp US, that we can coordinate all the different events that we're going to do, all the great taco trucks we're going to hit up, and just everything else that goes along with that. Finding places to stay and all other activities to do. So hit me up, and I'll get you into the Taco Track Slack.
All right, great. I will mention one thing. I will be speaking at Mac Stock. That's coming up this weekend. So probably at the time people listen to this, it's going to be close to the end of that happening. That's on July 23rd and 24th. But we'll talk more about that in future episodes, what we talked about, and even be able to sign up to get the video tracks after the fact. So that's MacStockConferenceandExpo.com if you want to check that out. And I want to thank you for listening. We really appreciate you being here. We had a great time doing the show for you, and we'll talk again soon.